So I just wanted to talk real quick about the function, or I guess the intended function of feedback, like the best way to be able to think about feedback and to use it. Because oftentimes, and especially in the day of social media, where we're getting feedback or lack thereof all the time. And for some people, either that the negative feedback or lack thereof can ruin their day, absolutely ruin their day. And I see this all the time, and it really bothers me. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what's a good way to change our mindset around that, to change our perspective, because really I think that's what it's all about, is changing the perspective as it pertains to feedback. If you change your attitude about it, the way you treat it, the way you go about it, it can make all the difference. So the best way to do that is to think of feedback as just information. And it's neutral information. So regardless if it is positive or negative, if your function is rather just to gather information, just to understand how people think, feel, and act, and take your personal feelings out of it, you're likely to not take it as personally. So what do I mean by that? In other words, you can get all of the compliments in the world, and that pumps you up, right? It makes you feel really good. And that may color the rest of your day feeling like you're on top of the world. Like, yeah, I got all these likes and I got all this positive feedback, and I'm the man or I'm the woman. And so you're basing your sense of confidence and sense of self on something outside of yourself, which is not meant to last, right? It's not sturdy, it's not solid. So whether it is good or bad, it's not something that is sustainable, and it's not a good source of how we feed our sense of self. But rather, if you go into it as, like, for instance, if you are trying to reach an audience with your content, with your marketing, with videos, if you're trying to make an impression, you're trying to convince people of something, whatever it is, if you're focused on seeing what lands, like to see how many likes it gets just based on the fact that you're trying to see if it's something that people are interested in, and that's what you're focused on, rather than how many likes to feed your ego and your self-esteem, that's a much better route. Because what you're doing is now you're laser focused on trying to figure out what is it that sells. And now I want to formulate my future videos or my future efforts on putting things out there that resonates with people. So if it didn't resonate, that really had nothing to do with you. It just didn't resonate. So take your personal feelings out of it. So there again, feedback is neutral until you give it power through being positive or negative. Try to stay unattached from it and change your attitude and focus on the function of what it is so that it's less personal.